Well, it goes to show, if you're going to go at a legend, you better not miss. As we know, Angel Reese come out this week. She absolutely crushed her own teammates into the dust. And she even decided to go after a legend. The legendary Courtney Vandersloot, who, of course, blew out her ACL at the beginning of the season. And she is in the midst of making a comeback. And, of course, Angel Reese made some comments that were none too kind to a legend.
The numbers don't lie. And right now, they're telling a story that has the WNBA in absolute panic mode. Just 2 minutes ago, the latest viewership data dropped, and the reality is more devastating than anyone could have imagined. Without Caitlin Clark on the court, the league's ratings have absolutely cratered, falling off a cliff so steep that executives are scrambling behind closed doors, wondering if they just witnessed the end of the most promising era in women's basketball history. Let's be brutally honest about what just happened. When Clark's Indiana Fever were eliminated from the playoffs, it wasn't just one team going home early. It was the entire WNBA.
Below. Let's go. At this point, it's over. That whole Sky Barbie thing, that thing is over. Angel Reese is done in Chicago. They're going to move on. They have to.
Golden Goose, getting its wings, clipped right in front of millions of fans who suddenly had zero reason to keep watching. The ratings tell the whole story, and it's uglier than anyone wants to admit. We're talking about viewership numbers that have plummeted by over 60% in some markets, with social media engagement dropping like a rock and television networks already having emergency meetings about their WNBA commitments. This isn't just a small dip in the numbers. This is
The Chicago Sky teammates of Angel Reese, Ariel Atkins, Rachel Banham, Courtney Vandersloot, three ladies which were targeted in that hit piece that Angel Reese slid underneath the table. Yeah, they responded. Not only did they respond, but the Chicago Sky.
Complete collapse of everything the league thought it had built this season. Clark single-handedly transformed the WNBA from a niche sport that most casual fans ignored into appointment television that broke records week after week. Her rookie season wasn't just impressive, it was historic, bringing in viewers who had never watched women's basketball before and turning them into devoted fans. But here's the terrifying reality the league is now facing.
Not exactly the leadership formula anyone was hoping for.
We can't rely on Courtney to come back at that age that she's at, Reese said. I know she'll be a great asset for us, but we can't rely on that. We need someone probably a little younger with some experience, somebody who's been playing the game and is willing to compete for a championship and has done.
Those fans weren't WNBA fans at all. They were Caitlin Clark fans, and without her, they vanished into thin air. The data is absolutely damning. Games featuring Clark averaged over 1 million viewers, sometimes pushing toward 2 million for marquee matchups. That's not just good for the WNBA. That's good for basketball, period, competing with and sometimes beating NBA games during certain time slots. But the moment her season ended, those numbers evaporated. The Connecticut Sun versus Las Vegas
has
Aces
done it before. Courtney Vandersloot, by the way, two-time WNBA champion, 5-time All-Star, 2-time All-WNBA first team, left the New York Liberty, a championship caliber team, to come help out the Chicago. Oh, damn. Oh, damn, oh, dang, oh, damn. It's all right, Courtney.
semifinal, a game that should have drawn significant interest as two powerhouse teams battled for a championship berth. Barely cracked 300,000 viewers. That's not just a drop. That's a free fall that has network executives questioning whether they overpaid for WNBA broadcast rights. What makes this situation even more alarming is the timing. The league had been riding high all season, with Clark's presence generating unprecedented media coverage, selling out arenas that had been playing to half-empty crowds for years, and creating a buzz around women's basketball that felt sustainable. Corporate sponsors were lining up, merchandise sales were through the roof, and for the first time in the WNBA's history, it felt like the league was on the verge of becoming
That's how you torch trust in record time.
But can Sky Nation expect to see you back here next year?
Oh, absolutely. You know, contrary to what people say or think, my age is absolutely not a factor. I am coming back. I'm going to come back better than ever because that's what I've done. I put myself in the position to come back and compete even at this age.
Better than ever. Thank you so much, Slew.
Mainstream sports property. But all of that momentum has disappeared overnight, revealing just how fragile this supposed renaissance really was. The social media metrics tell an even more devastating story. During Clark's playoff run, WNBA content was everywhere on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, with highlights going viral and generating millions of views. Basketball fans who had never cared about women's sports were suddenly sharing clips, debating her performances, and engaging with WNBA content at levels the league had never experienced. But since her elimination, that engagement has virtually disappeared. The league's social media accounts are posting to crickets, and the viral moments that defined this season have been replaced by an eerie silence that's got marketing departments in full panic mode. Here's where it gets really interesting and really scary for the WNBA's future. Clark wasn't just bringing in viewers. She was bringing in the right kind of viewers. Young demographics that advertisers covet, male sports fans who traditionally ignored women's basketball, and casual viewers who were willing to tune in regularly rather than just checking in during the finals. These weren't just curiosity viewers either. They were engaged fans who were learning player names, following storylines, and developing emotional investments in games. But without Clark, those viewers have no anchor point, no reason to care about teams and players they don't know or have any connection to. The ripple effects are already becoming visible across the league. Ticket sales for remaining playoff games have dropped dramatically, with several venues reporting significant numbers of returned tickets and struggling to move inventory even at discounted prices. Merchandise sales have similarly collapsed, with Clark jerseys and Fever gear still selling while other team merchandise sits on shelves. The league's streaming numbers on various platforms have taken a massive hit, and digital engagement across all WNBA properties has fallen to pre-Clark levels or worse. What's perhaps most telling is the reaction from other players and teams around the league. While many were quick to criticize the amount of attention Clark received during the season, calling it unfair or suggesting other players deserved equal coverage, the reality of what her absence means is now hitting home. Several veteran players have already started speaking out about the need to maintain the momentum Clark created, essentially admitting that her star power was carrying the entire league to heights it couldn't reach on its own. The television networks are having serious conversations about their WNBA commitments moving forward. Sources close to the negotiations suggest that viewership clauses in broadcasting contracts are now coming into play, with networks potentially able to renegotiate or even walk away from deals if audience numbers don't meet certain thresholds. The dramatic drop in ratings since Clark's elimination has triggered some of these clauses, putting the league in a precarious position as it tries to maintain its media partnerships and the revenue they provide. This situation exposes a fundamental problem that the WNBA has been trying to ignore all season. The league became overly dependent on one player, one storyline, and one team to drive its success. While Clark's impact was undeniably positive, it also revealed that the WNBA hadn't built the kind of broad-based fan engagement that could survive the loss of its biggest star. Other sports leagues have multiple draws, various storylines, and different regional markets that can maintain interest even when their biggest stars aren't playing. The WNBA, it turns out, put all its eggs in one basket, and now that basket is gone. The playoff games that remain are struggling to capture any meaningful attention. The Las Vegas Aces, defending champions with multiple superstars, are playing some of the best basketball in WNBA history, but their games are drawing smaller audiences than regular season Clark matchups. The New York Liberty, playing in the largest media market in the country, can't generate the kind of buzz that a small market Indiana team created simply by having Clark on the roster. Even the finals, traditionally the league showcase event, are projected to draw significantly smaller audiences than many regular season games from earlier this year. Corporate sponsors are already starting to ask questions about their investments and whether the audience they thought they were buying access to actually exists without Clark. Several major brands that increased their WNBA spending this season are reportedly reconsidering their commitments for next year, waiting to see if the league can maintain any of the momentum Clark created. This is particularly problematic because sponsor revenue has become increasingly important to the WNBA's financial model, and losing those partnerships could have serious implications for player salaries, team operations, and league expansion plans. The most troubling aspect of this entire situation is what it suggests about the future. Clark isn't going anywhere. She'll be back next season and presumably for many years to come. But this crash has revealed just how dependent the league is on her individual performance and availability. What happens if she gets injured? What happens if she has an off year? What happens if she decides to play overseas or take time away from basketball? The current ratings collapse suggests that the WNBA hasn't built the kind of sustainable fan base that can survive those scenarios. League officials are reportedly in crisis mode, holding emergency meetings about how to maintain fan engagement during the remaining playoffs and how to build broader appeal that isn't dependent on one player. But the reality is that this situation has revealed fundamental weaknesses in the WNBA's fan base and marketing approach that can't be fixed overnight. The league thought it was experiencing genuine growth, but instead it was experiencing the Caitlin Clark effect. And now that effect is gone, the true state of women's professional basketball in America is becoming painfully clear. The ratings crash isn't just numbers on a spreadsheet. It's a wake-up call that the WNBA's supposed breakthrough year was built on an incredibly shaky foundation that crumbled the moment its primary support beam was removed.